So if you've listened to the podcast for a while, you know my friendship with Gordon Bernhardt of Bernhardt Wealth Management has been fruitful, both in my career, in my personal edification, but also in this podcast, because Gordon brings me guests that are second to none in how they've been successful in the world and how they've conducted their lives. And my next guest, Jessica Koch, who is in Profiles in Success, and I will put a link to her Profiles in Success um, article so that you can learn more about her after our conversation, is no exception. She has been a national sales professional for more than 25 years, so she's badass. She's worked with Fortune 1000 clients like Disney and Verizon, so she's got the pedigree. She's managed multiple sales teams, trained them, built them. She's consistently top sales producer. By the way, you know that this was recorded right after the election because I am still tongue-tied and tired from everything that's been going on. She speaks nationally and is really sought after. She brings a lot of value to a lot of business and entrepreneurial uh, environments. So she knows her stuff. She's also the daughter of a retired Navy service member, so she's traveled the world. So she knows what it's like to be a military brat. She currently lives in Solomon Islands, Maryland, which is really a beautiful place, with her husband. And here's why she's on the show. She has done all this badassery. She has created herself to be so influential in the world and done so much for so many people while raising 7 kids with her husband. That is what is incredible. That when I talked to her about being on the show, I said anybody who can accomplish all that and then raise humans, because I did 2 of them and it almost killed me, needs to bring their story to the show. So Jessica, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So when you and I got together, on LinkedIn, and because of our mutual connection to the wonderful Gordon Bernhardt, and I looked at your profile and I thought, she's a really cool person. But like I do have a lot of entrepreneurial people on the show. So, but then I said, what would you bring to the show? And you said, I have 7 kids and I have a fabulous life. I have something to say. I was like, oh my God, she's so here. Were you a big family kind of person? Like when you were growing up, were you like, I want lots of kids and I want dogs and cats and
No, not at all. A matter of fact, I don't know how much your audience handles real transparency and genuine share and a bit
we
of
cry on
vulnerability.
this show all the time. We cry, we swear,
Okay,
and we only be real.
so my first marriage, I I was an Air Force wife. So I was a Navy brat, but then I was an Air Force wife. And I was actually in ROTC as a kid in school. I was National Honor Society. And I started dating a guy in high school, and we dated for 3 years. And he graduated before me. So he got into the military. And then I graduated and we got married and moved almost immediately to Germany. And uh, we didn't get pregnant for the first 3 years, and we weren't really trying to or not trying to. And, didn't really, we were young and married young, and,
Right.
and I was in a new country and he was in Operation Provide Comfort. And then after 3 years and several miscarriages, we did have our first child. And then I decided, okay, well, I probably don't want to, do that too many times in a row too quickly. Right. Because a real human was in my life with colic and tears. And unfortunately, for 7 years, I was in a very unhealthy marriage that was abusive on lots of levels.
Mm.
So I am not just a survivor of that kind of marriage. I am an absolute thriver. And um, but what happened was I was in another country seeing military doctors. I was young. There was no Google doctor stuff then, Yes, there I covered the gray, but I'm just going to tell you, I was around before Google, and you just did whatever the doctors told you. I didn't know any better, and so I went on a birth control to try to make sure I could make decisions about how many humans we brought into the world at once. And they just kept coming. And I mean, literally, I would cry. Doctors would yell at me, "You're not taking it right. You're doing something wrong."
So you were on birth control,
I know.
but the universe, God had other plans for you.
Other plans, totally. A matter of fact, one of the children, um, I went in, they did a test, said I wasn't pregnant. I was in an emergency room because I had a cyst the size of a grapefruit on one of my ovaries, and they had to do emergency surgery. And then when they went in, they said, um, well, we took your, we did a test that said you were pregnant and you absolutely are pregnant, but we're going to try to have you, they were going to try to give me medicine to make the baby go away. And I said, well, you know what? We came this far. They said, well, you're very fragile after surgery and this could, this could take your life. I said, well, we have to at least give that other person a chance, right? Because
Yeah.
I said, if it comes to that, if it comes to some sort of life or death, then we'll talk about it then. In the meantime, we'll see. And I ended up, he's my active duty Army son, and he is absolutely amazing and red beret and special ops. So I ended up married 7 years. I had three toddlers, and I was 2 weeks pregnant yet again because I found out later that, because women don't always talk about these things back in the day of what works and what doesn't work. Well, there's something with the women in our family where none of them have ever been able to take the pill as a form of birth control. So I had to find another solution. And as I my current husband of 22 years, just shaking hands wasn't it. So
Right. So
we
hold on.
didn't find another
So you,
solution, but
just
we
so we know.
didn't
So,
plan to have all these kids in a row. Is what I'm trying to say. It just sort of happened to us.
but now you're out of this marriage, pregnant with three toddlers, and
Yeah.
then you meet your next husband, Chris.
So well, what happened was so the first husband moved in with a girlfriend that he'd been dating and left me. And actually I had a 6-month-old baby and had already been divorced a year because of how the timelines went.
Right.
I was at the playground with my children. My husband was my new husband now was at the playground with his. He was married 9 years and his spouse left him for someone else too. Our two oldest children, who are actually born the same day, November 8th, different years, because he's 11 years older than me and the kids are different ages, but started playing together, and that's how we met. And from the day we said hello to the day we said I do was a year and 3 months exactly. So we at that point in my life, I was in so much pain. I was literally going to church every single day. I wasn't a bar hopper, I was a church hopper. I knew the schedule of every church in the region. And that morning I had gone, and it was the reading about the woman hemorrhaging and pushed through the crowd to touch the cloak of Jesus and was healed. That was the reading the day I met the morning afternoon after that I went to that church. I met Chris, and he had told me on our first date, at the end of the first date, I guess several weeks before meeting me, he had gone hiking up into the mountains and made a list. And he had kind of cried out to God and said, I'm lonely. I need this person. And he made the list with him. And at the end of our first date, he reached across the table, grabbed my hands, and he said, you don't know what this means yet, but you were everything on the list. so,
That's so
so
cool.
that was he is the absolute everything in my life. I love my children, and they're here so that they can have lives and journeys and adventures and love of their own. But you obviously know I have a relationship with God, and this man is everything in my life. He still kisses me before he leaves every time, and butterflies dance in my stomach, and we just have amazing things happen in all the ways. You just use your imagination. In all the ways, we have all the amazing things happen. Fireworks are a good thing to still have in your life. I'm just
That's
say.
raising six kids. Then so before we get to now yours, mine, and then ours.
Yes, we have an hour.
Before you get there, what gave I find a lot of people find it hard to go from needing abuse in their lives, having abuse in their lives, right, and tracking that in the world, and then allowing themselves to have the gift of a healthy relationship like that. How did you make that transition?
I'm pretty sure that I probably would have made a bad choice had it been all left up to me. I really feel like he was sent to me. I had made a decision when I met him prior to just a few weeks prior to meeting him that I was just going to, I was going to come back to college, and I was living in my parents' basement, and I was working nights so I could be with the kids during the day, and I was just going to take care of the kids until they were about in high school. I was going to get a house of our own. I was going to, take care of them. And then once they were in high school, I would try to meet someone because I didn't want to be alone forever. And I still liked,
But your plan was to tough it out.
I was
You
gonna.
knew your picker wasn't very good anyway. So
I figured too, I would never ever be able to trust someone because I was also, cheated on and left and all these things. And I thought, how is that even going to be possible for me? So when I met Chris and heard his story and saw how broken and hurt he was from someone leaving him and cheating on him, for me that was like, oh, he knows what it feels like, and he would lose his arm before he would. I have no concerns of being cheated on
mm.
because he would come and end it with me before he ever even looked at the direction of
So
someone else.
the integrity is there.
Yeah. So I because when you have that shared pain and you can see it in the person's face as they share their story, there's no doubt he knew exactly how awful I felt on every level. And there was no desire for him to cause that kind of pain to anyone else. And same, right? And same for me. And so we started this relationship with this amazing level of trust and admiration and appreciation and respect for each other that I don't think we would have had we met each other first, right? I mean,
Hmm.
I,
And it sounds to me like you were both totally surrendered to your version of whatever God is, right? Like you were surrendered rather than your own wits. You knew, by my own wits, my own conditioning and all that, I'm not going to do a good job. And you guys surrendered to something bigger than yourself.
well, and really a lot of kudos go to him because I mean, I think he had his challenges, but he's a licensed general contractor. He's this big, muscly, strong guy, the rough and tough, ideal, handsome, rugged guys, girls, use your imagination, tool belt and the boots, the whole 9 yards, looks great. And still has guns for days, and I not every, but one of the jokes we have in our relationship is literally when we were dating at one point, um, he said to me, I think you just want me for my body. And I said, you're right. Is there a problem? And then he said, no, no, not at all. I said, good.
Now we got relationship goals. Now we got relationship goals. I'm good with this. So let's fast forward a little bit. So you raising your kids. You have another daughter. Several years later. So you got yours,
Yeah,
mine, and ours.
yeah.
Some out of the house, some in the house. But you had decided to stay home to be with the kids. Wait,
So,
you did your sales career.
yeah,
I'm trying to go through that biography. You
yeah.
actually did go out and conquer the world while you were mom.
So, but I had interesting. So everyone is like, oh my gosh, we're working virtual. Well, the company I worked for was in Baltimore, and we live in Solomon's Island, Maryland. And I just basically sold them the idea that I'm going to work from home because I need to be available for my kids. If it doesn't work out, get rid of me. And 3 months into this, I worked for an auditing firm where they looked at expenses for companies, and I represented that. When I got with them, they were in the outskirts of Baltimore, Holthrop, which is in a little industrial mall, like a little strip of an industrial park. And their big clients were 2 bays down was the plumber and the big car dealer on the corner, right? Like literally, that was their clients. And they brought me in. They said, look, we take a look at invoices. It's no result, no fee. We look at water, gas, electric, trash. It's a 50-50 split with the client. Once they get their money, I said, this is Robin Hood. This is something I can sell all day long in my sleep. And so I went home to my dial up and listened to that noise that you
Yeah.
get from a dial. And
The
I
AOL noise, yeah.
use ACT for, a database and Outlook for email. And I never done any of these things, by the way. And 3 months into the job, we had appointments and had to fly out to Boston because we were meeting with the CFO of Staples, corporate headquarters, New Balance, and Big Lots. And when we went to New Balance, even we got to see one of the factories, and I got some shoes off of the. I got to buy a pair of shoes. I was like, yes. But my boss turned to me and said, "How did you get these appointments?" And I said, "Well, I called them and asked for a meeting, and they said yes." So
The secret sauce to sales. That is the absolute secret sauce to sales. You picked up the phone and you called.
I did. And I said, what am I going to say? No, I'm going to give it a try. So, and then my success kind of just soared and went from there. But I got to work from home. So, I mean, other than going to a couple of meetings, they flew me out to conferences. Um, I was still with them when I had Kara, who's 9, and Chris was staying home full time, and my income was supporting the family because he wanted to be with the baby. He just never had that opportunity, right? And all the other kids were pretty much grown and gone. So it was the three of us basically. And one of the conferences where I needed to speak, the company flew all of us out, put all of us up in a hotel. And then my husband pushed the stroller around the big conference hall and center. And he would text me, are you almost done? Because you need to nurse the baby. So I would go out and nurse the baby and then go back and teach or speak or do something else with the conference. So
So when you talk to other moms who who are trying to balance the career and the raising of the children and the keeping the happy of the husband, what do you talk to them about?
one of my favorite pieces of advice to no matter what stage you are in your marriage, if you really want it to be fabulous, is this thing that Chris and I do, which is it's the three things. And we share with each other three things that we absolutely love about each other. And only one of those can be the ooh la la. And we 100% of the time share the three things right after being very intimate, and that time, that space right after he says three things and I say three things. And the other two have to be something about our character, our person, something they caught us doing, something
Mm,
they noticed about us. And what it's done for us is it's made us pay attention, right? So he, one of the times, and I won't forget this one, is we were somewhere and doing something, and he said, your back was to me, and the sunlight hit your hair just a certain way, and you know, you can laugh, but he calls it my porn star hair. So just for him, only it's a private starlight.
got it, got it, got it.
Yeah, but and he says this to me, and it made me realize he's watching me. He's paying attention. I'm still that person that catches his eye. And the other interesting thing it's done for our 9-year-old is we tell her three things we are admire or amazed about for her too. And there's this really deep level of appreciation that happens when you make that a practice or a part,
Mm.
like a ritual in your family.
How's
Uh,
your how, have you have you done it with your older kids also?
you know, with my older kids, they're in the space of the 20s that we're starting to come around to this different, new, and kind of relationship, but there's still the rebellious teen,
Mm,
not all the way squeezed out of them.
got it.
So one of the things I did was I got a really special, unique journal for each one of them, and I begun writing things to them that I don't know when they'll receive it. Maybe it's when I'm no longer here, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's sooner. But in the meantime, I'm telling them things that I admire, that I think are funny. I'm sharing things about my life, things that they just can't hear right now. Even if I were to say the words out loud, they wouldn't soak in the right way. Um, I find that even reading the Bible for me, I read a passage and it means something different to me because I've seasoned, I've grown, I've learned our different place in my life, and I feel like if I share these thoughts, special with these children I love so much, that one day they may read, and hopefully maybe they'll reread, and maybe it'll have a different impact on them and help them in some way, avoid a mistake I made, or inspire them to keep pushing when things seem hard, or whatever it is I can do to be there to support them, even maybe one day when I'm not there, somehow I can be there, right?
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, and one of the things that caught me in your profile and success is you just said that you realized that your kids weren't your possession. You know
Yeah.
that your job is to care for them and to let them go. That you're that you're part of the journey, but they have to have their own journey. And I was really moved by that. It makes it so much easier to to navigate the different stages of their relationship with you. Like what I noticed with myself, like my kids need to rebel. They need to have independence. That's part of the development and if I can deal with myself, then it's better. And, what I notice is it's a much closer relationship because they get to do whatever it is they need to do.
So what are your ages?
Mine are 21 and 24.
Yeah, so one of the things I'm finding too is having them help me. So at that stage, having them help me with some of my own challenges with their ideas
Mm.
empowers them and puts our relationship in a different space where I'm talking to them about the rapid growth of my business and managing this team and cultural differences and communication and different pieces of it. And I'm like, what do you think? And how would you approach this? And one day this company could be yours, or what if this was your company now? What would you do?
Mm.
How can you help me? And and then I let them talk. And it's fascinating to see how excited and empowered and motivated they are to say, oh, well, you should do it this way. And why aren't you doing it like this, Mom? I don't know. I hadn't thought of that. And
Yeah, and both my sons are getting their own expertise, and it's really kind of fun. I love when they quote my own books back to me. That's the most fun. Is they read my book and they're like, "Well, Dad, is that a 10?" And okay, or I was on a business trip and I didn't want to go to the meeting I was going to, and I was actually thinking of not going because it was a real clear no, and I had already taken the plane trip, and my son said, "You're already committed. It's a 10 for you. You're going to go." And if you want to leave once you go, you can leave, but you need to. I was like, wow, the wisdom from my kid. And I showed up and I actually wound up walking out because the integrity was not there in the meeting. But I kept my word. I showed up to the meeting. I showed up in earnest. Right. And then when I was there, I was like, you know what? We're not going to be doing business. And I walked out. And it was really interesting. And I felt, had I not done that, I wouldn't have felt complete. So my son was right. So you're right. So our kids are just full of wisdom.
Yeah, they are. It's scary.
So tell me what's exciting in your life now that you want to share with people.
So this new division of my company has been, I I have been flabbergasted with the response from the community of my tribe and how far out that it's gone, if you would, viral to other people's. The most exciting thing I think to me is a fascinating thing happened. The same day, two different groups, one like a millionaire table space and another a high level mastermind, getting texts from both people, two different people, but one's in one group, one's in the other group. I've been attended this other group a few times, but not, wasn't there then, and I had never attended this other mastermind. I'm getting texts from people inside the group saying, people are talking about you. I closed deals, 5 from this one, 3 from that one, and didn't show up to the virtual networking. Now tell me that's not
That
exciting.
is totally exciting.
So my virtual assistant membership program is a tsunami of success that I am doing my very best to make sure that everyone's being cared for. And I've actually had to put a couple of dams up for circles of influence to say, okay, you can release the Kraken, but not yet. Hang on, because I'd like to just pull your whole program into our community. Hold that thought 1 minute, because we're still organizing systems and processes and onboarding and training and high level this and that, because I like it to be a certain way, and my expectation of customer experience and service and is so high that more is not always better if you aren't serving at the level of integrity that you desire, right? So strategic growth is truly a thing.
So where can people find out more about this?
Not on my website because I won't put it there yet. They would have to actually book a call with me, but probably within the next 3 weeks to, because of the holidays, maybe 2 months. So don't quote me. It'll actually be a program on my site. If you catch me soon, you get the launch pricing for life. So how can they reach me? Jessica at jessicalkoch.com. How about that? My website is jessicalkoch.com, and I'm sure all the links and all the things and all the magic will be
Yeah,
So
by the time this airs, all that stuff will be there.
yeah,
I will put all those links in the show notes so people can go and find you. I love meeting someone who is just, firing on all cylinders in all parts of their lives. Even, and it hasn't it hasn't all been given to you. Like you earned and you worked through and fought through all these things to be able to be at this moment. So the grit is so clear. And you're such a delight. So it's really nice to meet someone who's just delighted in her life. So
I love my life. We're healthy.
I
We
think that's what you said. That's what you said in the note to me when I said, what are you going to bring to the podcast? You said, I have a successful business, 7 kids, and I love my life. I'm like, boom. We need some of that in the world.
we kayak. We just got back from Cunningham Falls and hiking. We're going to Florida for 2 weeks. I'm growing this massive division. A lot of it's already running on its own. I have 5 managers trained. I play Yahtzee with my kid. I mean, I have the most handsome, hot husband, and I still have all that happening and working for me. I have a great life, and I have so much gratitude, and I think that is a big
Mm.
dial into the energy of gratitude because being grateful will change your life.
We're going to leave that mic drop right there. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
To everybody else, really thank you for your precious time and attention. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're taking care of yourself. I love you. Have a great rest of the day.